Happy Indictment Day, everyone. So the Trump Organization and its chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, are criminally indicted. What does today's indictment mean, and where might things go from here? Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So the Trump Organization is criminally indicted, as is the chief financial officer for the organization, Alan Weisselberg. Let's try to hit some of the highlights of the indictment, figure out what it all means and where things might go from here. So first of all, it's a 24-page indictment that was handed down by a New York grand jury. And in essence, what's charged in this indictment is a 16-year scheme to defraud. For 16 years, the Trump Organization has been run, at least in part, on the financial front as a corrupt organization. Why do I say that? Because what we learn in this indictment is that Alan Weisselberg, together with others in the organization, was running this criminal scheme, this fraudulent financial scheme designed to evade taxes. And he was involved in this criminal scheme from 2005 right up through yesterday, because the end date on the criminal conduct in the indictment, June 30th, 2021. 16 years of criminal fraud by Alan Weisselberg and the Trump Organization. Alan Weisselberg, over those 16 years, got more than $1.7 million in fraudulent compensation designed to help him evade taxes. Let's look at some of the numbers, because you know what? 1.7 million is real money to some people. It is to me. So it turns out that Alan Weisselberg defrauded or stole from federal taxpayers about $550,000 by criminally evading taxes. He stole from New York State taxpayers about $106,000 by criminally evading taxes, and he stole from New York City residents nearly $250,000 by criminally evading New York City taxes. And I love, buried in the middle of the indictment, he even lied to his own tax preparer by falsely claiming, I'm not a resident of New York City, when he was, because, you know, he wanted to steal that $250,000 from New York City. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you that Alan Weisselberg's tax preparer must be cooperating with the district attorney's office. So we also saw, buried in the middle of the indictment, that there is an unindicted co-conspirator number one. Of course, there was instant speculation about who that might be. And let me tell you, there was some reporting from NBC News that it's not Donald Trump, and we don't have any source attributed to that reporting, but it does seem like that's probably not Donald Trump. They'll be getting after him in time. So we don't know who it is at the moment, but here's what I will say. If you remember some of the earlier reporting, the Trump Organization controller, somebody who's also in the upper echelons of the Trump Organization, I think is right under Alan Weisselberg, he testified in the grand jury. His name is Jeffrey McConney, I believe. And so when you testify in a New York grand jury, courtesy of a unusual New York state law, you get immunity. So we know that the controller of the organization, Jeffrey McConney, testified, provided evidence and information about the Trump Organization. I'm not saying that makes him unindicted co-conspirator number one, but that is a piece of information we do know. So what else did we learn from this indictment? Well, we learned that Alan Weisselberg arranged for this fraudulent compensation, this criminal scheme to evade paying taxes to the tune of $360,000 of tuition going to his family members. $360,000 of these off-the-book fraudulent payments that, paid tuition for private schools for Weisselberg family members. $200,000, these fraudulent payments, off-the-book payments, $200,000 so Alan and his wife could drive around in lovely Mercedes vehicles. Some people strike that. Some of the defense attorneys for the Trump Organization insist on calling these fringe benefits. These are just fringe benefits. These are not fringe benefits. This isn't the boss giving you a nice case of liquor around the holidays as a gift, and you don't have to declare that. Or somebody saying, I have a condo in Florida. If you want to stay for a week, free of charge. Maybe somebody could call that a fringe benefit. This is a criminal scheme for 16 years. Unlawful compensation designed to steal taxpayer money, evade paying state and federal and city taxes. This is the Trump Organization, at least on this financial front, being run as a criminal enterprise. So not only did Alan Weisselberg personally benefit, and his wife, and whatever family members, it doesn't say which family members, got $360,000 in private school tuition. Not only did the Weisselberg family benefit from all of this, but Alan Weisselberg, it says in the indictment, also orchestrated this kind of criminal scheme for 2 other employees of the Trump Organization. We don't know who they are, but we will at some point, so stay tuned. So let me talk a little bit about punishment, because when you look at the indictment, there are a whole bunch of different criminal charges, but they basically describe one course of conduct. So the charges that appear in this indictment are scheme to defraud in the first degree, conspiracy, grand larceny, criminal tax fraud, filing false instruments, false business records. But it all basically is this 16-year course of criminal conduct that the Trump Organization, Alan Weisselberg, and others were engaged in. And the punishment the sentence that Alan Weisselberg is facing is basically 15 years. So the criminal scheme is a Class C felony under New York law, and it carries up to 15 years in prison, but it's also probation eligible. So if Alan Weisselberg is convicted of all these crimes, he could get probation. I wouldn't expect him to. I think a judge will send him to prison for a number of years if he's convicted, if he doesn't cooperate. But this is about a 15-year offense. Even though there are a bunch of different crimes set out, it kind of describes one course of criminal conduct by Alan Weisselberg and the Trump Organization. Now, there's a lot more that we could talk about, but let me finish with this. This is the first indictment, right? And remember this, folks. A 6-month grand jury was just impaneled, and we're still on the front end of that 6 months. If Cy Vance had wanted to only return this single indictment, he didn't have to put or ask for a 6-month grand jury. He could have had the normal 4-week grand jury issue this indictment and been done with it. No. The investigation continues. This is round 1. This is the starter's pistol. This is the opening bell of what will be a 15-round fight. Fight for justice. And justice matters. And as always, folks, thank you for tuning into these daily videos. If you'd like to support our all-volunteer efforts and our mission here, you can go over to patreon.com. You can sign up to become a patron. And if you do, I'll send you some Team Justice stickers and a personal handwritten note of thanks. As always, please stay safe. Please please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.